Hey guys, Justin here with Blackhawk, bringing you the next installment on our Buddy Check video series, talking about different pieces of kit and the why behind those pieces of kit to help make sure that you are as prepared as you possibly can be. Little background on me, I spent some time in the Navy. I was a VBSS guy, so I did some counter-piracy stuff, did 3 deployments doing that. I was also a police officer for a little while, and I also ran a small business as a firearms instructor doing rifle and pistol tactics and basic mechanics of shooting along with that. And I'm joined with my buddy Travis.
What's going on, guys? You know me, Blackhawk Ambassador Travis Kennedy. You should know my background by now. If you don't, former SEAL LEO, and now I'm here showing off and some great product with my friend Justin Blackhawk. So let's kick it off, man.
Right on. So just getting into the why behind a gun belt. So a external gun belt is something that, not necessarily a trouser belt, but an external gun belt that you can throw on over top of your trousers, over top of your shirt, whatever. And it's going to have a few pieces of equipment, some resources there that are pertinent to that zone. So first and foremost, it's going to be your holster and your pistol. Next is going to be a way to keep that pistol fed, so some magazines. Generally, some people might put an IFAK on their gun belt. Other things like a multi-tool or maybe a canteen, you'll see some of the details on what we put on our gun belts, and it's very much a personal preference. There's some standard procedures, like when it comes to like where to put your magazines. Most people that I know put their magazines on their offhand side just because of just your gross motor skills and your body mechanics, muscle memory, things like that. So why have one? Number one, it's a great way to train. You have all your stuff right there. You can just grab it and go. I have all the things that I need just right there. I can just grab it and go. It's a great thing to set up for home defense. Something goes bump in the night. You're in your ranger panties or your birthday suit, and like someone's trying to kick in your door. It's great to in those environments when you're wake up out of like a deep REM cycle and you're already disoriented. It's important to set things up and set systems in place that are going to prepare you to give you every advantage possible in that type of environment. So maybe some sort of lighting, things like that. Other reasons to set up a gun belt, it is oftentimes an additional component to a greater system. Travis and I have talked in our earlier video about having systems in place. So this is the next level of our system. On our last video, we talked about everyday carry. That's all the stuff that goes with you every day. A gun belt is something that is literally an augmentation to your everyday carry. The only thing that you might do is you might dismount your normal EDC holster in lieu of an actual full gun belt rig. That's going to be a little bit more accessible and have a little bit more resources there to help you out. So real quick, Travis, you want to show us your gun belt? Kind of go through what you got going?
Yeah. So a gun belt, he touched on it, this is just another like training modality to add to your overall, efforts and system and being prepared. Especially those who actually wear a duty belt, LEO, military. You guys know what I'm talking about, how crucial it is to train with your setup. And even as civilians, when I think of this, now I'm a civilian, but now in the military, pushing 5 years now, as civilians, the probability of me actually donning this and using this, probably low on probability stakes. That being said, I don't neglect it. I still think it's a viable tool set to have, because there is a situation where I might have the time to don this, and I'd rather work with this than honestly my inside the waistband holster.
Yep.
I'm much more efficient and proficient with this setup, and I have all my tools I need if necessary. And as an instructor now, I set it up in accordance with that, and it kind of facilitates me as an instructor as well. So kind of starting off with the pistol, right now I have this is M&P 2.0 full size with the T-Series L2D, so level 2, duty holster, RDS, and you'll see in prior videos that I removed the dust cover. I typically just remove it. I haven't really used it in the past, and that's just my preference. This holster is also set up with the quick detachment system here, And this is a good system. You could obviously swap back and forth from different handguns, different holsters if you use some. I typically switch from the L2D to the overt L2C. So that's typically me what I use. So if you use other guns, other firearms, other holsters, you could swap easily with this system. A couple things I like about it. For one, it's sturdy as hell.
Yeah.
Like it's not going anywhere. I could tug and pull on this thing. So for those of you who out there actually use it for duty, peace of mind. This thing is not budging whatsoever. And
our QD system is duty rated.
And it's solid, and that's why I really like it. Another favorite feature, it gives that good standoff between kind of the mid-ride system here.
Bit of a spacer.
The spacer for me to get that nice master grip and index on the firearm. Without it, I mean, it still suffices, but I like that little extra standoff. It gives me that good master grip, and that's what this whole holster system is designed for, to facilitate that nice, efficient master grip.
Yeah.
So I use this is the L2D RDS. With the dust cover, I removed it. And there's some particulars about it. And Justin, you wanted to go over some particulars about the system?
Yeah, so as we can show you in this little cut-in we're going to show, there's a removable dust cover that articulates back and forth. And when you're running an open emitter, like an RMR, something like that, as you draw the weapon, that optic will actually bump that dust cover out of the way and kick it open. We made it as simple as possible. We actually didn't even install any springs on it based on feedback we got from law enforcement, specifically because the feedback we got was make it as simple as possible. So upon draw, your optic will actually bump the RDS window out of the way. And then when you go back to holster the weapon, you'll actually just fold that dust cover back into place. It's a personal preference on whether or not you're going to have that dust cover on there. As you can see, Travis prefers it just to not be there. The reason for that dust cover is specifically for open emitter optics like an RMR, because there is an emitter in the base of the optic that actually projects the reticle onto the open screen. If a little bit of dust gets in there, you know, some sort of particulate, some mud, some snow, whatever, it can obstruct that emitter, and it's a little pocket inside the optic at the base. And if something obstructs that emitter, you have no reticle. So that's why we have that dust cover there. Again, it's optional. Now, let's say you're running a closed emitter. First thing that comes to mind is like the Aimpoint Acro or the Acro P2. That dust cover actually won't fully close with that open or with that closed emitter design. So you will need to remove it. We can splice in some footage that shows you how to actually remove that dust cover. It removes very easily. Now, you might be worried, like, well, hey, like, what about, you know, covering the optic on a closed emitter? I will tell you that since it is a closed emitter, kind of like a full-size Aimpoint, like we used to run in the Navy, that closed emitter, there's nothing to obstruct it because it's enclosed inside of the optic housing, so there's nothing to obstruct. So I just want to throw that out there real quick and explain the dust cover, and especially for folks that are running closed emitters, since those are getting more popular nowadays. You don't need to have the dust cover, and in fact, it is removable. So, Travis.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to think about, hey, if you are LEO or you're concerned about maybe depends on where you work, elements.
Yeah.
You know, here in northern Arizona, we get snow, it gets wet here, or, you know, if you're working like when I was a cop in Southern California, it was 99% of the time it's nice and sunny weather. Didn't rain. I didn't have to worry about elements or rain or anything getting into my RMR. But that may be different in your situation. So think about those things he touched on. They are viable. And again, it's your personal preference. We're all thinking shooters. We develop our own kit based off what we need, not what we see someone else using. So think about that stuff. Moving on is the dump pouch. So this whole belt system is the Foundation series belt setup. And there's a variety of different pouches. And all these pouches on here are Foundation series. And this is the dump pouch, and it folds up nicely and, you know, compact. And once you release it, it just unfolds, and it's fairly big.
Yeah.
And holds magazines, extra bullets, you know, Sharpies, whatever the case may be, you could put in there. And for me is like
An Nalgene.
Yeah, water. As an instructor, I use this a lot. I put my empty mags in there, I put loose rounds in there, I put pens in there, whatever the case. As an instructor, just a nice tool. And outside of the whole instructor realm, this is a good place to house magazines, like you said, water. for doing mag changes. We don't want to, you know, dump our mag on the street or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good place to put it.
You can mess with your buddies on the range and like put rocks in there. We
Make
used
it
to
heavy.
do that all the time.
Yeah. So there's a variety of use cases for a dump pouch. My experience in the past, I went back and forth when I was in the service on dump pouches. Like when I had a gun belt, I try to keep limited amount of things on my waist because we're humping and patrolling for far distances, and I didn't want all this equipment on my waistline. Majority of the equipment was on my kit, on my rucksack. So I went back and forth. So now I use it more than I use it a lot actually.
You can use it for SSE or evidence gathering.
So it comes in for me now, I use it a lot. Moving on is the medical pouch.
Yeah, IFAC.
IFAC pouch, and this is slick. I like to keep my medical gear on my belt behind my mid back, my lower back right here. There's other places you could put it. I throw it on my gun belt because I find that's the most efficient for me. And honestly, just nice little fast tech unclip, pull it out, and there's your med bag right there. So it's not necessarily, you don't have to put medical gear in it. You could put other things, other tools, multi-tool, other things in there if you want. So it's just a good utility pouch / IFAC pouch. So use it as you will, but recommend put medical in there. Moving on, these are the magazine pouches. Justin mentioned magazine pouches, kind of the standard, are placed on offside.
Yep.
Support side, you place your magazine pouches. And I just went for the double rifle, double pistol. Magazine pouches, I like to have, you know, about this quantity on me at, you know, at all times. This is a good, if I'm not running kit, this is a good amount. If I'm running kit, I pretty much have 5 magazines, rifle mags on my person at all times, which is a good amount of rounds to get the job done. And then for pistol, I like to run 2 in the pouch, 1 in the gun, so a total of 3 pistol magazines.
Yep.
And
pretty standard.
yeah, so it's pretty standard across the board. You could always go less, you could always go more, just situation dependent or whatever. There's not like a hard and fast rule with those things. It's just, you know, my past experience, that's pretty much when I ran in like real world situations. I always had like 5 or 6 rifle, about 3 or 4 pistol on me, and it worked out. So yeah, I like the double. There are single, correct? They make single magazine pouches, so you could use that.
Doubles and singles for both of them.
So yeah, and that's pretty much mine. It's very, very simple, very kind of streamlined. Like I mentioned earlier, I like minimal things on my belt line. And to mention that this system has an inner belt Velcro belt. So you put this through your belt loops and you place the outer belt over the top. So it's nice and secure. It's not gonna be flopping around your waistline. It holds tight. It feels good so you can move around. It's not gonna be sloshing around your waist. So, which I think is important because I really like this feature when it comes to gun belts because it's nice and snug. Before, like back in the day, I remember we didn't have stuff like that.
Yeah.
We just had this huge thing you throw over the top of your regular belt.
Big old duty belt, and then it's sliding down.
And it didn't make, to me, like I think that's why guys strayed away from it, because it was big and bulky, uncomfortable. Like nowadays they're really slick and streamlined, very comfortable. The game has changed.
We actually used to order like law enforcement style belt keepers. We'd order them to us on deployment, and then we'd run law enforcement style belt keepers because they were ahead of the military at that point as far as like keeping your belt secure.
They had everything on their belt.
Yeah, the belt was like the holy grail for them. It was everything they needed was on the belt. So,
and the buckle feature, the Cobra buckle.
Yep.
And there's 2 options.
Yeah, this Travis and I are both running an upgraded version with the Cobra buckle. I'll have to double check if that's on the website or not. Or we're planning on getting it up there. The normal Foundation Series gun belt comes with like a side lock Fastex buckle. That was like the standard for military gun belts and law enforcement gun belts for years. It's solid, but there's just something sexy about the Cobra buckle. The normal Foundation Series gun belt with the side lock buckles, I think that's like $50 or something. But then just adding that simple Cobra buckle, it makes the gun belt $100. So just kind of like, you know, scale it for whatever you need. If you need to have the sexy Cobra belt,
personal preference on that one, I prefer the Cobra.
Yeah, same.
That's just me. More reliable, more durable, and secure. I'm not gonna have to worry about bumping that fast tech or whatever and coming loose. So I like the Cobra. And yeah, that's my setup. Pretty straightforward, simple. You know, explain why I carry what I do, and yeah, I've been really liking this.
Yeah.
What do you got, man?
So I run something real similar to what Travis does. I'll start off with my holster. I run the L2C overt. Overt meaning, so we have the normal L2C, which is this kind of holster geometry that you see. But a big difference or big departure is that it's a much lower profile. It's low cut on the sight track. I don't need to protect my rear sight because I installed XS big dot sights on my go-to pistol. Those are very, very tough steel sights. They're not going to break. I'm not worried about protecting that. I don't typically run a light on my gun belt, although I do have the QD system that I can quickly augment between, and I do have light bearing holster bodies if I feel like I need that extra plus up. But what I typically like to do is the gun that goes in my external gun belt is typically the same thing that I carry. I like to just be able to like carry gun, whoop, and then bam, into the gun belt. I don't really need to change anything, because what you'll see about the way I set up my foundation series stuff, like this is all like my grab and go stuff. Like this, like if I need something to augment my capabilities quickly, this is all grab it and go. So I don't want to have to like do extra stuff that's going to take time, because time is life. In front of, or actually, one thing I'll talk about. So I have the overt typically comes with, it comes with the pivoting leg strap adapter system. This just pivots on an aluminum bushing back and forth, and it actually follows your hip's natural body mechanics. That really helps out with reducing fatigue over time, because just imagine like wearing this all day, every day. From my experience, like climbing a caving ladder, getting into a ship, like crouching down and trying to crawl underneath something while I'm looking for like, doing a VBSS counter-piracy search and seizure thing where we're looking for guns, we're looking for drugs, whatever, crawling into tight spaces. Like, we used to run like the big old drop legs, you know what I mean? So if you're like hanging from a caving ladder and you're trying to like pop up over the edge, our SOP was to draw our pistol out when we'd pop up over the edge of the ship. And it was just kind of cumbersome to draw like horizontally out of that big old drop leg platform. That's why I like this, because the holster is directly connected to the gun belt by our jacket slot, and just the leg strap adapter pivots with my hip mechanics. So it's a little bit more ergonomic. It also just helps reduce hip fatigue. So
I want to highlight for all of you out there watching, civilians or will not be most likely climbing caving ladders, etc. That the point he's making here is that, hey, say for instance, I need to squat down, take a knee. When I go to index that draw, it's in the same place every time.
yep.
It's not gonna, when I take a knee, the gun's gonna be horizontal and I have to do some awkward draw motion. No, it's gonna still be in that vertical position where I want it. Mm-hmm. It's gonna follow my leg motion here and be in the same place every time, which I think is one of my favorite things about that pivotal leg strap. Because before it was rigid. Mm-hmm. The gun would just follow your leg.
Like you're running against a rubber band.
Yeah, so, and it does help too when you go to obviously draw that gun too, and you go to, get that purchase, draw, that holster stays in place. Yeah. And that's another reason why we wear leg straps, because sometimes in the past when we go to draw that gun, pull that from the holster rides up. Yeah. Especially with these type of gun belt setups, that leg strap keeps it nice and flush on your thigh. So it's always the same every single time. You're not have to worry about getting stuff hung up on you.
Especially like the more technology we keep putting on our guns, like first it was the light, now it's the optic, now the optic's getting even bigger with like a closed emitter type system. That weight, like especially if you have to take off, if you have to boogie and run, like that, the weight of that pistol may make this holster flop around and just be uncomfortable, slapping you against the leg. And then we're kind of right back to the drop leg conundrum. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but taking off running with a drop leg and the thing's sloshing around and all over the place. So yeah, it's a good piece of kit. So another thing that I'll talk about, Travis touched on his, but our QD system, it's literally called the QD2, because like even back during the global war on terror, we had a different QD. It was like a huge like rotating vault door thing. We wanted to make it a little bit smaller, so we have like kind of like Costco style pallet racking eyelets that lock into this male delta link that you'll install on the back of your holster. And like Travis mentioned, you can quickly change out different holster bodies based on the scalability of your needs. If you need to plus up to like a light bearing holster body to hold your pistol that has a light, etc. Or if you need to move the holster around, like we'll show you here, moving the holster from the gun belt up to the plate carrier has its advantages. For instance, if you're like doing a whole bunch of vehicle stuff, it's kind of nice to have the pistol up here, so that if something happens, you need to get you need to get the pistol into the fight quickly. You can literally just draw it straight off of your chest instead of having to like fight with your seat buckle or something like that. But something I'll recommend just for the practicalities of like doing this for real. If you exit your vehicle, the first thing I would do, I don't know if this is you too, the first thing I would do if I'm exiting that vehicle, time and space permitting, if I'm not currently engaged in a fight, I'm going to move that that holster back down to the gun belt immediately. Just because, like, if I have to lay prone or something like that, the last thing I want is like a holster inhibiting me from getting prone. So, moving over to what I have up front. This is not a Foundation Series piece of kit. This is actually just a Leatherman. I was actually issued this when I was in the Navy, or actually not a Leatherman. This is a Gerber, whatever. You'll notice that it's mounted sideways on my gun belt. It's not designed to do that. That's where, I don't know, when you guys deployed, you probably had a bazillion zip ties and 100-mile-an-hour tape. But I literally just have it zip tied to my plate or my gun belt horizontally, so that if I'm like bending over or sitting in a car, that's not pinching my gut. I've got a dad bod, a little bit of a dad bod these days. So it's nice just to have it horizontal there. Moving around, I run a dump pouch in the same location Travis does. I like to run my dump pouch directly behind my holster. If I'm trying to hastily or quickly store a magazine back there, it can be a bit of a reach around to get it back there. But the thing is, if you're sucked into something that bad where you feel like you don't have time to store a half-empty magazine, Travis, you can answer this. Like, should you even worry about putting that magazine away?
No.
Yeah, finish the fight.
Get rid of the magazine.
Yeah, just ditch it. Like, come back for it later.
They're expendable.
Yeah. So this, I treat a dump pouch as a nice to have for hasty storage. That's why it's where it is, because I have other things that are more important over here that I need to be able to access. So it folds out. One thing I really like about this thing is when it folds out, you can throw your stuff in there. And when you're wearing this, you can actually just grab the bitter end of this shock cord here. And if you yank up on it, it actually will close down this interior orifice, if you will. It's kind of the best way to call that thing. But it helps prevent stuff from popping out of the dump pouch. So it's one-handed closure, because you might be holding a pistol, you might be holding your rifle, whatever. Anything that I can access or manipulate one-handed is a benefit. So really like that. So for me personally, I like to keep the back of my gun belt completely slick. That is typically where most people are going to put their, we called it a blowout kit, like their medical kit on the small of the back. The reason why I keep it slick back there is because, like, I might need to get in and out of vehicles, and in the next video you guys see, you'll see I do the same thing with my plate carrier. I like to keep the back slick so that I can actually sit back into the seat of the vehicle and I don't feel like I'm being like pushed up forward in an unnatural way. But I run a fanny pack for my IFAK, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, and I can move that around. So coming over here, you see something that doesn't match the rest of the stuff. I just have an old school USGI canteen pouch that I have zip tied to my gun belt because it originally comes with Alice clips. And
got that from the Navy surplus store?
yeah, this is old school, man. I ran with this on deployment. But yeah, I like to run a hard canteen. There's a reason behind that. Well, number one, like aside from oxygen, like the rule of threes, you can survive like 3 minutes without oxygen, and then like 3 days without water, right? Water is a absolute necessity when it comes to doing any kind of physical activity, whether you're like bombing around on the range or if you're doing it for real, whatever, you're gonna need water. And the answer when I was doing counter piracy stuff was we were issued like a hydration bladder that we could just wear over top of our. We had a flotation plate carrier in case we went in the drink, we wouldn't go straight to the bottom. And then we were issued just an over-the-top hydration bladder that we could use. And on my second deployment, it was a summer deployment. It was 120 degrees on the surface. We were on a 25-foot rib boat, bombing around, going from ship to ship, just kind of doing the hearts and minds thing, talking to different fishermen, gathering intelligence on pirate activity. And I didn't drink all of it. I know for a fact I didn't drink all of it because it was like still earlier in the morning, and you take a few drags off of your hydration bladder, and my hydration bladder had popped, and I didn't notice it because we're on a 25-foot rib boat bouncing around on the high seas. You're warm because it's 120 degrees on the surface, and you have like the reflection of the sun like coming up and hitting you, reflection off the water. My hydration bladder had popped. It leaked all over my back, my body, and I'm wet from like being in the boat, like hitting waves, getting splashed. I'm already wet, so I didn't really notice it. And I was like dying. I was so hot. I was like begging my buddies for like a drag off of their hydration bladder. So I learned that lesson the hard way. That on my gun belt, whether it's like my throw and go gun belt or it's like my scaled up, like, crap hit the fan style gun belt, whatever, I'm always going to have at least a hard canteen on my gun belt. I have a different rig that I sometimes run. It's like a patroller's rig that I actually run two hard canteens on either side. So you need water. You need water. And my personal preference is to run a hard canteen. And then going forward to that, I have just two pistol magazines. I actually don't run rifle ammunition typically on my pistol belt, and I'll get into why on that a little bit later on. So that's my gun belt. I like to keep it really simple. And what is a part of my gun belt that it's an accessory that goes with it. When I grab my gun belt, I grab this because I need medical. So this isn't actually a Blackhawk product. This is an Eagle Industries product. We're buddies with those guys, but this is an Eagle ERB. It's originally designed to be an evasion and resistance bag, just something you can throw on that has like survival stuff in it. But what I do is I actually pack mine with medical gear, and this is my IFAC. And just for those that are watching that aren't former mill, IFAC stands for Individual First Aid Kit. So I run my medical in here. The reason why I do that, and the reason why I like it, is I can just throw it over top and I can clip it on. And if I need to quickly dismount it and use it, just that simple side lock Fastex style buckle, I can unhook it and I can access the emergency life-saving tools that are in there. But if I'm doing like land warfare type stuff, or just like, rolling around out in the sticks, whatever, if I need to lay prone, I don't want this up here. So when I get out of a vehicle, I can spin it around to my back, like we'll show you here. Or if I'm in a vehicle, I can spin it around to the front, and then I don't have anything on my low back that is like pushing me away from the seat and just making me uncomfortable. So that's why I like to run a fanny pack in the dump pouch. And heck, like, talk about like everyday carry type stuff. Like, if I feel the need to, I can even just throw this on over top of my everyday carry. And like, fanny packs are cool, or at least they were cool like a couple of years ago. I don't know if they're cool anymore.
They're becoming cool again.
Yeah, I might look like a bit of a dork, but it matches the dad vibe. So like we said in our last video, if there's one thing that like 9 times out of 10 that you're gonna need before you need your gun or whatever, you're going to need medical. So have medical, and more importantly, have the ability to use that medical. So, so that's my gun belt in a nutshell. So from here, we're going to look at a couple of different nuances on Travis's kit versus mine, and just kind of do a little comparison. So first thing that we noticed right away, so Travis is running like a light bearing RDS, again, situationally dependent. It's important to be intentional with your kit selection, but it's one of those also, like, don't overthink it. Like, just because Travis is running light bearing and RDS and I'm just running like a, you know, non-light bearing plain Jane Glock with irons, like, select something that you're comfortable with, and train with that. That's the more important thing.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, like I'll switch to the L2C over when I'm running like a certain, just, you know, a different firearm, a low profile without, you know, weapon mounted light, etc. But when I think I want to don this, I'm donning a more robust system. I could handle more weight. I could put a full size firearm on this thing and not even worry about how it feels or the weight or anything like that. Because when it comes to my concealed carry, I'm running a compact firearm.
Yeah.
You know, so if I have time to don this, I have time to don my full size firearm, which my preference is I much rather shoot a full size firearm any day of the week than a compact or some compact firearm. That's my preference. I am much more proficient with the full size handgun, and much more, you know, I'm much more confident just because my experience, I've always used full size handguns.
Yeah.
You know, I can handle my own when it comes to a subcompact or compact, but if it was on the table, not my preference in a, you know, a real world situation, I'm grabbing that full size handgun.
Better recoil
That's just me.
management, better pointability,
Yeah.
more ammo generally. So yeah, there's just a lot of advantages there. One other difference, like I have my multi-tool on here. A multi-tool is a nice to have. It's not necessarily a need to have. I just always find myself having to tinker on something. One example is like, I might notice that like a screw or something is starting to back off, and like I can pull this out and get the little Phillips screwdriver head and I can like tighten it down, or like I can use the pliers for a bazillion things that you use pliers for. It's just, there's always something that I feel like I always end up needing to tinker on, and just having a multi-tool is just really nice. So.
And keep advised with when you put, it's hard to get to your pockets too when you have this gun belt on.
Yeah.
Right? So if he has this in his pocket, it's kind of a pain. A lot of guys you'll see run like a nice fixed blade knife or something on their gun belt, because, you know, it's hard to get a pocket knife when you're running this big robust belt system. It's hard to deploy a pocket knife underneath it, which this is what I found.
Yeah.
With even my like karambit knife, if I'm running this, it's hard for me to reach it.
You might
with
end up
the leg
moving the
strap.
knife.
I have to move the knife. So
Yeah.
if you like blades and stuff like that, running a belt system might behoove you to add a blade on your belt. A lot of guys do that.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
One thing that you might notice on my gun belt is I have 100-mile-an-hour tape around the excess bitter end of the belt that goes through the Cobra. That's how you size it. The Foundation series does come with this little elastic keeper, which you can see better on Travis's. It's not obstructed by the multi-tool. That does a great job of holding that bitter end down and allowing the clutch action of that belt clip to hold it in place, because like if it lifts up, it kind of like it releases that clutch a little bit. I taped mine down just out of habit, I guess. Pretty much anything that I think might maybe move, that I want to make sure doesn't move, I generally just tape it. And you can see later on in other videos when Travis shows his rifle, I noticed he taped down the bitter end of on his sling, just because like I have stories on losing gear.
If you have a
We can
lot
get
of
into
excess
Yeah.
like material, it's good to size it and then tape it down.
Yeah.
Regardless if that's like rucksack straps, rifle slings, leg strap, you know, like there's a really robust excess, behoove you to tape it down, because you want it flopping and get snagged, like you said, or move around. So.
Or loosen up, and then
Loosen
it's
up,
like
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Right.
So Yeah, so that's really the main contrasting pieces that I wanted to kind of go through. Travis, do you have any other input
No,
on
yeah,
that?
very similar. I have rifle, he doesn't. All that's like I mentioned before. Like, yes, this is gonna do the job if in the event I need it for real world.
Mm-hmm.
This is also set up. It's like a 50-50 split because I also use this when I instruct, and this is like the most efficient way for me to instruct with.
Yeah.
So it's like, you may not be an instructor. You may just be worried about, hey, this is like a good place to start to train,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could build it out and to think about, hey, how am I going to deploy this in like a real world setting, and then add as you need.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many different like situation modalities and like go-tos that you could set it up. But I think what we talked about on both of our belts is kind of is what you need. It's a good starting place.
Yeah.
When it comes to mine, it's a good place to start and then build from there.
Yeah, Travis's way isn't wrong. My way isn't wrong. When it gets down to this point, it's just personal preference and or like what additional roles you might have within your team. Like if it, for those of you viewing, you might be like, military, might be military, might be LEO, whatever. So yeah, like you might have different roles that require you to have different pieces of kit.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
one thing Travis had mentioned, I don't run a rifle magazine on my pistol belt. This is I set up this pistol belt to be an example of like my normal like throw and go. If I'm gonna grab my gun belt and I have one thing to augment my pistol, it's gonna be that. I run my rifle magazines on my plate carrier just because like if it gets to that point where I feel like I need a plate carrier,
You're done. You're done in the rifle with plate
yeah,
carrier.
I'm grabbing the rifle with it, and the plate carrier has the rifle ammunition. So yeah.
Yeah.
Just personal preference, and this really comes down to like me trying to keep this as slick as possible with the things that I think are essential for this. So that's just a quick comparison between our two different gun belts. Now, the more you go down your own personal journey as a warrior, you will find that there are a variety of ways to stash a pistol or to take a pistol with you. I know during the global war on terror, a lot of dudes would stuff a pistol inside of an empty magazine pouch on their
Yeah.
chest rig or on their plate carrier. There's just a lot of options. Something that I really like, if I can't wear a gun belt, an example of when I might not be able to wear a gun belt is if I'm wearing like a rucksack or backpack, whatever. A good rucksack will have like a waist belt or a hip belt that takes the load of that ruck. Now, if for some reason you needed to ditch that ruck really quickly, uh, if I have to shed that backpack quickly, I want to at least be able to keep my pistol. So what I'll typically do, this is our micro platform 4T series, and you see like I actually spray painted mine so it looks cool. I could run my pistol in here, and then I would just run my trouser belt through this loop and just run my trouser belt through there. So if I have to shed my ruck really quickly, I at least still have my pistol. So just a handy piece of kit that isn't necessarily like, that may not be your go-to every day, but it might be an option as you kind of put your systems together like we've been talking about. This is a good part of your system, is to maybe have a micro platform, not like a full-on like drop leg like back during the height of the global war on terror. That's not my preference, but this low profile micro platform that is actually the same height and same draw stroke distance as my normal gun belt, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So that does it for our second installment on our buddy check video series where we were talking about different gun belt setups. So thank you guys for watching. Remember, it's important to train. This stuff is useless without adequate training. Travis and I both have a pretty extensive background in training and being trained and training others. It's important to have the ability to use these things. Again, like having the right mindset is key, and that mindset leads you to getting training. Kennedy Defensive Solutions, a great example. I'm actually alumni of Tactical Response. That's a great outfit. Bear Solutions, I'm actually taking Pistol Level 2 with Bear Solutions here in about a month. So just go get training. That's paramount. As far as like where to find this stuff, you can see us see this stuff on blackhawk.com. Or at a local dealer near you. If you walk into you know, a gun store nearby, chances are you're going to find some Blackhawk stuff there. So that does it for us. Honor is a way of life, guys.
All right, train safe.